I came up with a new show idea, Lubie. And it's going to be a show entitled Loan Shark Tank, where we have like 5 loan sharks on one side, and the people come in, these bust out degenerate gamblers come in, and they try to negotiate better terms on some kind of a loan and also secure the loan, even though their reputations may not match up with what would be considered spot on credit. And then you got some guy coming in there going, hey, listen, I'm looking for $600 at 2 points a week. I'm telling you, I'm going to pay you back. I know my reputation is not necessarily exemplary. And, then the loan sharks start picking them apart. It's like, well, what are you talking about, Johnny? 2 points a week. That's laughable. It's 7 points a week just to talk to me. What do you think?
I think it would be classic.
And you get the music going. The guy comes out. He's clearly in need of the money. And they get that dun, 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 dun. And you got some guy that looks like Vito. He's Mr. Wonderful's chair, in Mr. Wonderful's chair, and he's just looking at the guy like, what a watermelon.
I was gonna say you have to have at least one of the people or behind them, enforcers, at least either behind them or off to the side
with that face, that the enforcer always has. Like, let me at him. How about a little taste of pain?
The beginning of every episode, it's a guy that fucking didn't pay last week. So they have to send a message.
Shit beat out of him, yeah. He's in some trash can feeling himself out. Man, here's last week's deadbeat. What do you think? Did I get some money to produce this thing? Is somebody going to steal the idea? I was afraid to unveil it here on the show because I thought it was brilliant.
I think it's funny.
Loan Shark Tank.
The time. Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
Pitched it to Paramount, Netflix, Amazon, Jeff Bezos directly, and so far no takers for Loan Shark Tank, Lubie. So we're doing this, and they always told you this, Mike Lubie. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Defo Show. And program directors were always insisting. I never fully understood what this meant when it came to sports, but they would always say, as if they were music directors, play the hits. And we would, think, well, what are you talking about? I mean, we're just going to talk about one subject all day long. But I realized that there was some merit to that. And that's what we're going to do right now. We're going to play the hits and just turn over a pair of pocket aces here as we begin the show with one of our favorite people to talk to on the circuit. Became the coach of Florida Atlantic University last year. We got to know him through our good friend Special K, who, by the way, could be what? Would he be a contestant on Loan Shark Tank or one of the loan sharks? He was in the jewelry business. I keep thinking of that Adam Sandler Uncut Gems movie. But, he introduced us to the great Tom Herman, head coach at FAU, and the season gets underway this, Friday night? Friday night against Michigan State on the road. FAU head coach Tom Herman joins us here on the show. Coach, thanks so much for being with us on the program.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you having me. I think your problem with the show pitch, though, you got to have a catch to your name, Defo. I think we got to go with something, kind of punny, like break a leg. Plays up the loan shark seedy nature,
Yeah, I mean, so far, speaking of legs, it doesn't have a whole lot of legs, but we'll see. We're always trying, Coach. You always have to try new stuff. I mean, here we are, new season, turn the page last year, come in as the FAU head coach. Of course, a great resume, although I did notice one blaring and glaring inconsistency. You are a member of Mensa International. And at the same time, you dabbled in sports talk radio for a while, which is a just dire inconsistency.
Both of those things are true. Yeah. Both of those things are true. I don't know. Maybe I have I'm a cutter. Maybe two professions, right? In broadcasting and coaching. That if you're not careful, they can beat you down pretty good. But and then the Mensa thing that and $2 will get me a cup of coffee at 7-Eleven. So that doesn't mean a whole lot.
Well, I mean, you've had an interesting coaching route and odyssey. I mean, assistant coaches, coaching positions, a lot of different places. End up getting the head coaching job at Houston, then Texas, now here at FAU. You coached in the pros with the Bears for a season as an assistant. How did you find the experience last year? I know we talked before the season got underway. How would you characterize what happened, Coach, last year? And what did you take away from it overall?
Yeah, it was a difficult year, learning experience. I think the big takeaway is that when you take over a program that has had 3 straight years of losing, we did that as well my first year at Texas, and we squeaked by with 6 wins barely in our first season, and it wasn't really until year 2 that we turned the corner. We won 10 games, played in the conference championship, beat number 5 Georgia in a New Year's Six game, and so that was we had the first year culture problem. I tell people we were in 6 one-score games last year, and that team went 1-5, and so that tells me we had the requisite talent to be in 6 one-score games, including on the road against Illinois, a 6-point game, and it tells me we were really close on the talent front, but just not quite enough to kind of carry the day. And we had the culture requisite to be in those games, just not enough to then overcome, some talent deficiency. So long story short, we feel like in the off season, we improved our talent level, both by bringing players in and developing the ones that were here. And we've improved our culture just by the people that we've invited in this program, by the people that we kept in this program after last season. And so although 50% of our team did not play football for FAU last year, wow. So your listeners probably need to get used to that new reality of college football. But we feel like we're better. And now how much better, I don't know, because certainly last year's team is not the standard. But we're going to go out Friday night against Michigan State with a much better football team than we had last year.
Jim Larrañaga, the UM head basketball coach a few years ago, was talking about the changes that were going to take place with the transfer portal, name, image, and likeness. And, the question was, at least that sports fans had, is, how's this going to impact the game? And we saw where it might have been enough to even drive St. Nick out of the game with a premature departure where he just didn't feel like dealing with this anymore. I'm not sure exactly what his motivation was for retiring. Could have been, easy television money. But how is this landscape and the new so-called geography of coaching in college sports at the Division I level, especially? How has this changed? And is it especially punitive towards programs like FAU, where you recruit a kid, and if he shows promise, all of a sudden somebody's waving $1 million in front of his face to go to another school?
Yeah, that's a reality. That's real. It happened to us. We had, even though our season wasn't what it was, we had the leading receiver in the country last year in terms of catches per game, and he had 1 year of eligibility left, and unfortunately, we couldn't come close to paying him what other schools were offering him, and so I think it's really difficult, but I do think, Defo, it has made things very cut and dry in terms of the expectations, I think, maybe for fan bases and administrations. Like, as good a recruiter as I am, I can't out-recruit dollars,
yeah.
and my staff and all of that. So just to get us in the door, we've got to be competitive with the money that is being offered to these players. And so ultimately, how we do every Saturday is literally now up to the powers that be, and how much money we're willing to invest into the payroll, so to speak, of our team. And the more money we spend, the better players we can go recruit, the better team we're going to have on Saturday. I mean, it's simple math. And so although it is certainly detrimental to places like FAU, where our revenue our standalone revenue is not very good from an athletics department, and so we rely on fundraising really to do anything other than keep the lights on. And so to say that now we're going to have to go fundraise tens of millions of dollars more every year just to compete in our own conference, that is a scary thought, but one that I think our administration is up for the task, and we're going to do our best to make sure that we're competitive in that arena, at least for the teams that we've got to beat every Saturday, the teams in our conference. We're not, I read a story that Ohio State spent $20 million this year alone on player either retention or acquisition. And so we're certainly not asking for that, but if we're expected to beat South Florida and Memphis and Tulane every Saturday, then hopefully we're spending every year what they're spending.
How much can you, because it's one thing you've done your whole career when you were at Ohio State, when you were at Houston, you came in with a lot of hoopla, and you made it look like an underestimation of what you could do, because you came right in, and I as a Florida State fan, I watched you beat us in a freaking bowl game where we had no answer for anything you did. And as good as you were recruiting, like you just said,
that was an ass whooping.
You did not.
I can say that now. You guys had 5 first rounders on that team, and our 2-star, 3-star guys beat you by 17, man.
It wasn't close. That was actually, I think they made it closer by the end because you were being nice at the end of it, out of respect for Jimbo, I guess. But that's something you did quite often at Houston. Texas, I know things were a little bit different when it came to money, but you were always good at getting the most out of your players, right? And that's something we always hear about. The great coaches can mean this much wins and this and that much wins. It. How much of that can you use in this new world of, we're not going to be able to have the NIL they have, we may not have the facilities they have, but I do know a thing or two about this game. How much of that still exists? How much of that can you try and rely on to try? Because you just said even your conference, the American Athletics, is actually still one of the pretty solid conference. I mean, Memphis has competed for New Year's 6 bowls, and you've had, like, it's a solid conference. Tulane has flirted with undefeated seasons. Like, it's not like you're just playing randoms. Like, this is a solid conference you're in right now. Yeah, you're starting at Michigan State, which is really cool to get on the Power 4 or whatever we have now, Power 5 conference team. But it's not like your conference is a bunch of slouches. How much can you rely on the coaching to try and stem the tide when it is such an uphill climb these days for quote unquote smaller programs?
Yeah, I think coaching matters, and we've got a hell of a staff. I've got 2 of my 10 assistants were former Division I head coaches. I've got my O-line coach I won a national championship with at Ohio State, and I mean the list goes on and on. And so we feel like we can develop young men and their skill set to the maximum. We feel like we can also put them in position to win a lot of games too. But I do go back that there's a couple things that are said in our profession. One, it's not about X's and O's; it's about Jimmys and Joes.
Yeah.
And I go back to you could resurrect Vince Lombardi, you could bring Coach Saban out of retirement, and if you feed them a bunch of bad players, I don't know how good that football team's going to be. Yeah. And so I've always said, a great coach can make a good player, make an average player good, a good player great, a great player elite, and an elite player champion. What a great coach can't do is make an average player elite. That's genetics, that's mom and dad, that's God, whatever God you believe in. And so if we're not at least in the market, again, I go back to recruiting, to be in the conversations with those types of players, we can bump them up a notch, but I don't know how many more notches we can get out of them.
Tom Herman, the head coach of the FAU Owls football team, in action Friday night, start their season on the road against Michigan State. What can we expect to see, Coach? I mean, as you were saying, you can influence players so much, and you're trying to upgrade their level and get the most out of their abilities. From a style standpoint, can you implement the style of play that you would like to use at this level, or do you have to make adjustments there? And what can we expect to see? Who are going to be some of the standouts for FAU this year?
Yeah, I think you are right. Coaching matters, and I kind of like being the underdog. We've been pretty good at it over the years, and so having been in these games and won these games, on paper, you're going to say Michigan State, or everybody's going to say, I'll say Michigan State has better talent than us, and they're probably right when you go back to those genetics and mom and dad and recruiting. But it doesn't mean they have to have better football players than us. And we're going to go in, and if our talent will get us in the door, we've got good enough talent to win, to beat the Michigan States of the world. But in order to do that, we've got to play more physical. We've got to play with a greater passion, a greater love for the guy next to us, because it's all doable. I mean, at Houston, we went 6-0 against Power 5 teams, and 3 of those were in the top 10, including the Seminoles. So it can be done with the talent that we have on this roster. If these guys come together, they play the way they're coached, and they sacrifice pretty much everything to get those wins, then it's going to be a pretty fun night in East Lansing.
What is it again? Because you're now in a part of the country that made its bones with these games. Bobby Bowden made his name going anywhere, anytime to play anyone. NIL or not, the teams that FSU had in those early days were not comparable to Oklahoma or Nebraska. Howard Schnellenberger did the same thing with Miami, whether they were both sort of in concert together with, we don't care who we play, we don't care where we play, we don't care when we play. Again, those early Miami teams were not comparable to Oklahoma or Nebraska. So yes, I get what you're saying on a long term. To really compete for conference championships, especially in your conference, you're going to need to be able to hang with them NIL wise. But like you're saying, on a one game, one off, we've seen some. We just saw it this weekend. My Florida State Seminoles again took on a much less talented Georgia Tech team that pushed them around for 4 quarters. So what can this kind of game mean for a program like yours? It's Friday night. It's standalone at your time slot. There's nothing else on that anyone's going to watch. It's a big college football weekend. We're all going to be tuned in to FAU handing to East Lansing. What is that kind of game? As you just said, your Houston Cougars did it multiple times when you were there. What kind of message are you telling your kids that this is the kind of moment that they've sort of been waiting for, right? This is the kind of game that small programs go out there and make a name for themselves.
Yeah, it is. I mean, the first thing you tell them is, one, they're good enough, right? Because they're going to hear all these messages out there saying how much better Michigan State is, and that's not true. They may have, higher ranked recruits, but that doesn't mean they're going to have a better team or better players. And then I think, what this can do, like you said, when we do win, I remember it was my very first game, or second game as a head coach. We traveled to Louisville. It was Lamar Jackson's freshman year. The year before, we beat him 38-10, and he won the Heisman Trophy. But we went to Louisville and we beat him pretty good. And we were in the locker room, and the kids were hooping and hollering, music, dancing, the whole nine. And I cut the music. I blew my whistle. I called them up. I was mad. And I said, what more do you guys need? All of you guys that are on the fence right now, after just participating in that ass kicking, like, if you're on the fence about the way that we do things in our program right now, you're crazy. Like, what do I got to do? Schedule the Green Bay Packers? Like, let's take this thing and run with it. And I think that game was the catalyst to that 13-1 season, because they really realized that our way does work. And even though it might be a little harder, it might be a little bit more grueling, the results are pretty amazing. And it was really a solidifying game. And I think that can be the same for us here.
Well, Special K gave me a winning horse at the track at the same time, and he gave me a nod and a wink and said, watch out for FAU this year, which we plan to do. And we're hoping that Duffy Daugherty is rolling over in his grave by midnight Friday as you guys spank Michigan State. It'd be great. Coach, always terrific talking to you. Thanks so much for being with us. Pleasure having you on the show, and we'll look forward to following you and the FAU Owls all throughout the season.
All right, guys. Appreciate you. See you soon, and go out.
All right. Thanks so much. Coach Tom Herman.
He's great.
Now, that guy's great, man. I mean, he dabbled in media, Lubie, for a while before he really got launched onto his coaching. What would it be? I mean, do almost all coaches have some sort of odyssey, would you say?
Yes, yeah. Even coaches that seem to take a quick route.
Even Nick bounced around.
Done
right?
a lot. Yeah. I mean, you gotta get your name out there. He just did it swiftly. Remember, we were talking to him, and he was like a high school coach, and then I guess he had met Urban, and Urban got to Ohio State and was like, "Dude, I want you on my staff," and he was like, "What?" Like he was like, dude that didn't even think he was near that point in his career, and once he got to Ohio State, it just took off. He just sort of got screwed in Texas because we saw Casey Thompson, the guy that was his quarterback that was at Texas with him, went to Nebraska, went with him to FAU, got hurt. He was actually at the restaurant last year when we had Herman there. Thompson got hurt I think the first game, and that was the end of their season. Like, that's the stuff that happened to him at Texas. He had a lot of bad luck where you would have really shitty injuries, and as we know, Texas is not patient. So it led to them where they are now. I mean, Stark's doing a really good job.
Well, and you're in kind of a myth of the Sisyphus situation, right? Where you can only push the rock so far before it caves in on you. As if you're recruiting really good players, which look, I mean, how far down the totem pole is FAU just even in South Florida recruiting?
Oh no,
I mean, you're not necessarily going to be going for guys that are premier 4 and 5 star players. So you have to be really, good and sharp at spotting talent that fits the system and the level. And then if they're any good, they're gone after 1 year because somebody else is going to say, "Hey, wait a minute, man! You see that tight end for FAU?" Or and you're back to square one. So tough situation. I don't know. I mean, when Tom Herman, a guy like that, takes a job like this, I mean, you're sort of thinking, okay, it's Holy Lane Kiffin. This guy will be here for a couple of years, and if he has any success at all, he's going to be Gonzo City for a much better job.
Herman doesn't feel like a long-term coach there. But again, going there, as we saw with Willie Taggart, doesn't necessarily mean you will rehab your career. So you do have to take that time seriously. And you do. Look, Kiffin wasn't there a year. Kiffin was there, 2 to 3 years?
Yes.
He didn't get all. The first year was the year he had a good year because it was coming off the Partridge recruit. Partridge actually had put a lot of talent there. He just couldn't turn it over. Kiffin had a great year, got buzzed, and got no major offers. Hung there the next year. They were solid again that year, not as good, but solid. And that's when he got the offer. It's like you're not guaranteed to get offers. So you have to treat this like it's your last job. Willie Taggart was a big-time coach before he went to FSU, and now he's in the NFL as an assistant because the college game has just changed, and it's changed overnight. And look, a lot of the younger guys are embracing it. But as Tom said, I tried to get him off of it just to see what he would say because he is a guy that has one with less talent. They beat shit out of Louisville.
Boy, I like the way he interrupted you and characterized that as an ass whipping.
It was. The game was annoying because it felt decently close. But if you watched the game, and you weren't an FSU fan, and you were objective, they were never in that game. Like Houston just pushed them around in that game. And FSU that was when Jimbo was in his prime. Like he was recruiting with Bama and Ohio State every year, and Houston was pushing them around in that game. Like he's been good at getting the most out of players, and he's like, look, yes, like we talked about Michigan State, a one game, anyone can fucking win. He's like, but to try and win a conference, because that's the problem is they moved up in conferences. Like a lot of the teams that went to the Big 12 needed new teams, but they didn't all leave the American Athletic. Like the American Athletic isn't a Power 5, but it's not. Like, if you're an FAU, you're not in the same classes, though. Like, these are programs that have been top 25 programs a lot over the last few years. So, like, you do need to get in their weight class. But on a one-game showing, like, these are the kind of games that teams like FAU, look, Georgia Tech, they're in the same conference, but Georgia Tech and FSU are in two different worlds. Well, right now, their trajectory looks bright. Like, these are the kind of games that, if not make programs, look, it's what Coach Herman said. It's what gets players to believe a coach. If you can get you up for this game and you can go play your ass off for this game, that's the kind of thing that brings in NIL dollars. That's the kind of thing that keeps your transfers. Because again, we've seen kids get drafted first round from random schools. Like you don't have to leave. It's the money's so hard to say no to. But if you can get your fan base, look, it's South Florida. There's a lot of people went to FAU. You just got to get them excited. You got to get them into it. And I think Herman's the kind of guy that can do it for a couple of years. No, he's not going to be here long term. Look, that's how you know FAU you're doing a good job is when these guys are able to leave. Like you're not going to be, you're going to be a stepping stone job, and that's okay because there's a lot of these guys out there that need to rehab their careers every single year.
Well, and if you get that type of coach, a young guy who's already been in high positions, and for whatever reason, I mean, nobody seemed to have any derogatory things to say about his tenure there at Texas. Most people thought that. By virtue of circumstance, look, the demands there are going to be pretty much to go. I mean, look at the people they've gotten rid of, right? I mean, no disgrace there. I don't know that tarnished his reputation at all.
No, Texas is crazy.
You were surprised to see a guy like that surface for $1 million a year at FAU, supposedly, but he had been paid off, I guess, for the last couple of years of a contract at a very fat salary at Texas. What do you get? Like $40 million? I mean, he got some ridiculous amount of money. But that's what I really like about this guy is that if somebody handed me $40 million to retire from doing this, I mean, are you kidding me, Lubie? Am I going to come back and like teach a broadcasting school somewhere? No, probably not. Be in Ibiza or whatever on my yacht. No, I don't know that I would live this lavish lifestyle because I'm so unaccustomed to it, Lubie. It would be strange.
No, you may not work heavily. I don't know what you would do. You probably would go to the track more and go to the
probably gamble it all the way, which got buried last night, by the way, my theory about the Marlins and the over. I mean, forget about that. Judge did not have a home run, though. Well, were we considering that? Yeah, but to lay that kind of price to bet on that, what would seem, I don't know. I mean, that's insane, isn't it? If you're going to, betting 1 to 2 shots is not, not necessarily something you want to get in the habit of doing, is it?
No,
because I mean, you have to be right far more often than you're wrong, and unfortunately, one loss is very, very difficult to overcome. Do they have any chance against Michigan State, Lubie? FAU? I couldn't tell you.
I don't know. I don't even know their quarterback is.
Yeah.
I didn't want to. I don't know too much about their team.
I was hoping he was going to name a few guys, actually.
I know
but I had a long-winded question that nobody would really know what the answer was to it. Yeah.
I think he's trying to see. I don't think he wants to put anyone out there until he sees. Like this is game 1. It's and it's a Friday, which is the
other games are pretty much a joke on the schedule. TCU and Stanford is the smallest point spread on the board at 9 points. TCU favored over Stanford. Michigan State is a 14-point favorite over Florida Atlantic. The other games are 23 and a hook. Duke over Elon. That's not exactly a warm embracement for Duke, is it? Lubie, endorsement. Wisconsin's 24 over Western Michigan. Oklahoma is a mighty 43-point favorite over the Temple Owls, speaking of Owls. So look like it could be a duel. I mean, the Owl will be extinct after Friday night, possibly. But we're going to root for Tom Herman. What a great guy, huh? Is he not an asset to the local coaching scene? We are very fortunate to have had any number of these type of treasures here, because you could talk to that guy all day about not just college football, but just about anything.
Oh, he's fun.
He's fascinating.
He'll talk. Like he was giving me shit about my nose. He was talking about.
Yeah, he's not afraid of fire on you, Lubie. I mean, we barely. It's not like we.
No, we hung out.
What do we have seen him and talked to him a few times? That's it.
He hung out with him once, but we hung out for a long time, and he just took to it, and he got it, and we talked to him again last year on our show, and. He's just fun. He gets it. He's the kind of guy it would be hard to believe him not, quote unquote, making it. I mean, I guess he already did make it. He got that big contract he had, Houston winning.
He doesn't have to do anything else the rest of his life, basically.
Got the Texas job, made a shitload of money at the Texas job. But he's still young enough where it feels like he's going to come back again.
I think he's 49. Is that right?
He's in his 40s. I know he's in his 40s. I mean, he's going to come back again and get another job.
He doesn't look that old,
though. No, he looks younger. It just feels like he's a guy that's going to do big things, and he's not. That's the thing is. These guys, it's all ego, and you heard him. He's a guy that's sitting on millions of dollars, and
but he's dedicated, and he has all the. I mean, the coaching philosophies there, not necessarily cliches, but where you're talking about coaching kids up, and he had a lot of that kind of stuff, that motivational stuff.
Like he's old
you could feel that, coming from this guy, and yet he's a down to earth.
Yes.
A very relatable person. So it's not like he's just giving you this coaching spiel and hoping that it works, right?
I just like that when we brought up Mensa, instead of being maniacal, he laughed and was like,
Yeah.
adding $2 to get you a coffee, you know, like,
Yeah.
dude, you're worth millions. So it doesn't really matter, right? But he still treats it like he's coming up. And he again, reputation's everything to these guys. And he got his big job. It didn't work out. People in the know give him the break that realize it wasn't all on him. But a lot of people just look at he was at Texas and got fired. And you don't want that taste in your mouth. Like, these guys want to go out on top. They don't want to go out limping away, taking the money and running. So it feels like he still has a lot to prove in his mind, a lot to prove. And I think that'll bode very well for FAU. I actually agree with Special K. I think year 2 with Tom Herman, I think they're going to have a very interesting year.
And as you said, I mean, there are teams in the conference that distinguished themselves and became
it's not an easy
top
conference.
25 programs. Yeah,
it's not Sun Belt or Conference USA.
No.
Like AAC, yes, they lost a lot to the Big 12.
South Florida's representative, Tulane, you mentioned.
Well, Tulane's been undefeated before. Recently, they were last year. I think they were vying for a New Year's Six bowl.
Yeah.
Memphis, we've seen Memphis, where Mike Norvell came from, flirt with not only win a conference championship, but flirt with being a top 10 team. Like,
sure.
They lost Cincinnati. They lost UCF. I think they lost Houston, but they didn't lose all of them. There was like 5 or 6 teams in that conference. Like, that's a pretty, and USF, like you just said, last year had a big turnaround year. It's an interesting conference. It's kind of conference that can allow them to grow, but it's also not a patsy. Like, it's a legit conference. And that's the thing. Like, they got to try and keep, I don't know. I'm curious to see how they play Friday. Like, I think up in East Lansing ain't going to be easy.
All right, Albert's going to wear out his fingers there, strumming that guitar. So we'll come back with more. I would say this though quickly that when you hear Tom Herman, I'm now curious to watch some FAU football or follow it.
Yeah,
Friday. I might even be inclined to get interested in it. And wow, I mean, to move me to go to a game at this stage, I would probably consider that over going to a UM game, even though at one time, I mean, I was entrenched into UM football and just loved it. And, it was great being a part of it and being swooped up in all of that momentum, going to big bowl games for national championships and just being a whole part of that scene. It was fantastic. And yet, if a guy doesn't come out and talk to, fans and as, you just had Tom Herman, do an interview. I don't know if there was some time restriction on that, Lubie. I thought we were imposing on the guy, but most of these coaches, they're like they're very regimented in terms of time. Would be much more so than even we are, having been in radio.
Something at 9. That's why they made it 8:00, so that he would have room.
Yeah. So but did that not? I mean, at least tweak a little bit of your interest in FAU football to see what 100%. This guy can do. Yeah.
Like, I want to watch it Friday night. There's literally nothing else up against it. It's perfect to watch. I'm just hoping they hang in there.
Yeah, that was good. All right, we're going to come back with more in a moment here as we continue with Mike Lubie, Lubitz. I'm Jeff DeForest. Back with more in a moment. Now that.
The time.
I was lost between like 100 different jobs there. I almost, introduced us as being on QAM. That's bad. It's 8:39. Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant, and you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine food served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in style, and you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in Plantation, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar, and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
Are you looking to buy your first home? Have you been turned down for a loan? Do you need to refinance or get money out of your home? Call Michael Kodsey, CEO of Choice Mortgage. He's been helping the South Florida community get mortgages for 30 years.
Hi, this is Michael Kodsey, CEO of Choice Mortgage. We have the most competitive fixed rates in the market. Call me 24/7, 561-441-2730. And remember, I don't just work banking hours. To make the right choice for your home, call Choice Mortgage today.
To be or not to be, that is the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against a sea of troubles, and by opposing end them, to die, to sleep, no more, and by asleep to say we end the heartache and 1,000 natural shocks.
What could that have been about except
Gambling.
to hedge or not to hedge?
The modern day odd couple, Defo and Lubie, are on now. It is, of course, the Defo Show.
It was so true, our theory for many, many years that we proliferated to the public out there that you could do anything over NFL Films music and it would sound dramatic, no? As long as you had that. And it almost could have been the theme for Gilligan's Island, right? But anything, including Lubie doing Shakespeare, sounded brilliant over that. It's true, isn't it?
Yes, 100%. When you did the Chinese menu with Rinaldi, that was
Rinaldi was reading a Chinese food menu, Mugu Gai Pan. And over NFL Films music, it sounds great. You don't hear it as much anymore, do you? I mean, with the lessened, lighter role of Chris Berman, does he still do stuff on ESPN?
I don't know. That's a good question. I know as recent as last year, I remember seeing him. I don't know if he's there this year at all.
They got rid of RG3 and Samantha Ponder, who had been on there for a long, long time. And I thought it was great. I mean, as the host of that thing, the show itself, that NFL Game Day on ESPN, did you not find it was of some value, Lubie?
It's fine. I mean, I don't really watch.
As pregame shows go, I mean, Brewski's got the best hair I've ever seen on a human being, beside of Mike Mayo. No, Teddy Bruschi.
He's great. Oh no, he has great TV hair. Like he's like
TV hair is incredible. Rex has the teeth that are the size of Secretariat. You got our man Randy Moss, who we found to be just a delightful individual when we met him there with that ill-fated project. Did anything ever happen with that land in South Dade that we were touting, Lubie? The one by Top Golf. What was that? That was going to be the biggest sports facility anywhere in the world over, my friends. Yeah, well, bigger than anything Putin could put together just in time for the Olympics. Yeah. It was going to be amazing. Whatever happened with that?
That's a great question. I don't know.
I mean, some dignitaries were out there. That was fantastic, wasn't it?
It's weird. All the people that were involved in that thing, the fact that it just faded away into oblivion.
You had Glenn Rice out there. Randy Moss, Brian Trottier.
Yeah, what do you mean? You had the woman that was like head of the U.S. women's soccer program, like Jill Aaron. Like it was like legit. I felt legit. I don't know.
Levon was there. Remember, he came on the show.
And I don't know what became of it, but it's nothing.
Yeah, we had a good show out there though that day. That was fantastic.
Yeah, it was great.
But Moss came across as really just, I mean, the reputation that he had as this badass. I guess was deserved at the time, but he certainly had refined his and become far more dignified if that was the case, that he was just a wild, rebellious maniac. I mean, the image was of him dragging that cop as if she was a hood ornament while he was smoking weed, blowing through a parade. And you're thinking, who is this nutbag? I mean, right up there with all of the, crazy people, that Pac-Man Jones, that type. And, he was someone, I guess, what was he sort of a rebellious teammate? Or, I mean, Brady loves the guy. But when, I mean, did you not find him to be a very distinguished and sort of humble guy by comparison to his reputation when we were speaking with him, Lubie?
No, he was fun.
Yeah.
It was definitely the opposite of what you ever heard or thought of him.
That was good. I mean, but the project, unfortunately, I don't think that might have been its biggest day. That day that we were out there, and
downhill from that, it never became anything. There's nothing there. It's still an empty field.
Yeah, all right. Makes some sense. All right, so suffered a loss last night, but we also, and this is the value of inside information. We did it, Lubie. We did it. With the Marlins 3-2 loss last night, we hit the under on the season total of 79. There's no way they can reach it. If they won their last 29 games, they would be sitting at 78 somehow. So we did it, Louie. I mean, you're cashing a ticket. That's pretty good
I
stuff.
wish we had done it.
August 27th. So many of these, even in the Marlins past, when we had the improbable likelihood that they would achieve an over, and those numbers were like 74, 75. Remember the drive for 75 with Dale Volkswagen, right?
Yes, sir.
Number 75, and it came down to the final game of the season. You had to be like a red hot. I mean, when he was good, Noah Syndergaard on the last day of the season. It was incredible. I mean, the mileage that we got out of that thing. But of late, you would think, okay, after last year, should they not have been? Well, you knew all the way that they were going to get rid of everybody.
Yeah.
How could you even? There weren't many people in Colorado last night. I'll say that the Rockies got a nosy team.
No, they're not good either. So
yeah, and it was similar. I don't know if it was as sparse as it was when I tuned into the last Marlin home game last week, but it's incredible. How do they sustain themselves? These franchises when nobody shows up. How meaningless is game attendance in the overall financial scenario of Major League Baseball, Louis?
It's sad, but it doesn't matter as much as it should. The TV deals and the revenue sharing.
Nobody's going. Nobody.
Teams make their money. Attendance, I'm sure, helps. I'm sure you like when you have attendance. But again, with the TV deals and the revenue sharing they have from the big market teams, I guess they make it work. You don't hear them pleading. We know the Marlins tried to plead poverty that one year, and everyone laughed at them when the books came out and they were making fucking millions. That's the thing. Like, the attendance only matters so much. It's sad, actually, that it matters so little. But as we can see, all these teams stay afloat. You don't hear the owners bitching about their bottom line.
No, and it seems like no matter when you sell, no matter how lousy the organization, no matter what kind of stench they've left over the city, no matter how they've besmirched the reputation of a municipality, no matter how badly they've fleeced the city in deals, the owner always ends up selling for a very fat profit, as witnessed by Laurie and Sampson, who came in with, I don't even know if they own the shirt on their back, and walked away with like $1.4 billion or something, right? That's unbelievable.
Yes.
More than Stephen Ross paid for the Miami Dolphins and that whole arrangement over there.
Yes.
So, which included the stadium, right?
Yes, he owns the stadium. Yeah, he's the one that does all that stuff to the stadium. He bought the stadium, the whole thing.
Unbelievable. So anyway, that was good though. Well, we cashed that ticket. That was probably the best piece of information we've ever passed along in terms, and it was almost assured from the very beginning of the season. And then in the throes of a woeful losing streak, the Marlins brass says, hey, why don't we get rid of this Arias guy? He's the one guy that can hit. We'll trade him. And then sure enough, by the time he got around to the trade deadline, everybody was gone.
Everyone was gone, yeah.
Although they might have fleeced the Orioles in Trevor Rogers' deal. I don't know if any of these prospects ever has a major league at bat, then they won that trade. I don't care if he strikes out. And then last night was dreadful. I go ahead and recommend the over on the Bury Your Bookie show. My first loss I sustained last night. And I was dead in the water from the start. You could just see this. I mean, the complete meltdown of any chance that I had as Cabrera is striking out everybody. It looks like Pedro Martinez out there. And this guy Felton, who was 1-10 on the season and coming off the injured list, all of a sudden he is dealing like he's the greatest pitcher in Rockies history, which doesn't really include a whole lot of greats.
No. Yeah.
In fact, who is it? This guy that was their all-time greatest pitcher is like Ubaldo Jimenez.
Oh,
you ever heard of this guy? Ubaldo Jimenez.
Ubaldo Jimenez. He had a good year or two, and it's
hard. That's it, though. I mean, remember they paid all that money in the beginning near the I guess the outset of the franchise for Mike Hampton. Remember Mike Hampton, and he couldn't get anybody out. He couldn't get his grandmother out when he went out there.
Mike Hampton and Denny Nago were the two star pitchers that they had that were great elsewhere and horrendous.
Horrendous, right? I mean, breaking balls don't break. They break right into the stands. And as I was saying, you had like Keegan Bradley, this skinny, waif-like human being. looks like Ichabod Crane. And he's cranking 400-yard drives in the rare air of Colorado. And I can't get one guy to lift one out of the fucking park. Come on, Lubie. This is not for the weak. This is not for those that are easily or likely to cave in. No, I mean, you literally you would drive yourself crazy because this logically dictated that there would be even the announcer. See, I knew I was cursed when Severino came on before the game, and he was working with Nelson, the pitcher from the Yankees. He was pretty good commentator, Jeff Nelson. Yeah, seems like a good guy. And they're saying, well, you know what? There ought to be a lot of runs here tonight. And I thought, fuck, I'm doomed. nothing going to the fourth.
No, they mentioned
Cabrera's striking out everybody. It was ugliness. Anatomy of loss. So while we were making history with maybe one of the earliest season-long, I don't know how much earlier you could cash a season-long baseball prop bet.
Doesn't the season go into the beginning of October? Like the first few days of October?
At least the end of September, right?
It's over a month left and you've cashed the season bet.
Season bet, yeah. I mean, these, like I said, in the drive for 75, it came down to a final series against like DeGrom and Syndergaard, back-to-back games. And they both went to like 1-0 extra innings or like we're one-run affairs. And we almost did it, Lubie.
Yes.
Such ugliness.
That's
Such
crazy.
ugliness. All right. We had a lot of conversation yesterday about the University of Miami, Mario Cristobal. Is it possible that Mario Cristobal gets so badly outcoached by Billy Napier that with an inferior squad of talent, supposedly, at least as it appears on paper, that the Hurricanes go up there and their season goes up in smoke? There are still bodies being recovered in the Irish Sea of Seminole fans.
Yeah.
They had to do an aerial search. There were a lot of people that didn't make the plane. The plane. That's got to be a funky ride home, huh? Yeah, I mean, you're bombed out of your mind. You're in Ireland. I mean, there's nothing to do there but drink. Is there really? Have you been to Ireland? And it looked like they had a golf tournament there going off simultaneously to the weekend of the Florida State game, and the weather looked like shit. It just did. So, I mean, what else could you do there but besides go to these bars and drink? Do they drink warm beer there? Because they also drink those dark beers.
Warm beer is a big thing.
Why not just have a cup of fucking mud?
I think warm beer is a big thing. I don't know why it is. Yep.
Warm beer. Yeah, because they're fucking freezing the rest of the time.
The beer warms them up.
It's, I mean, but to fly back, what is it, like 11 hours? It's got to be something like that.
I don't know. It's like 6-7 hours. It's a flight.
That's it?
I think. I don't know. I mean, it's
6-7 hours. It takes 6 hours to get to LA. Come on, Lubie. Ireland? That's got to be more.
I don't know. You probably don't fly direct. You probably fly to New York, and then from New York you fly across. So
yeah, probably not a lot of flights going out of Fort Lauderdale Airport directly to Dublin.
No.
I don't know. Maybe. It could be, right? It's an international airport. It's not like you're flying out of Melbourne or something. So anyway, yeah, that had to be particularly depressing for the Florida State fans coming back from that. And especially after, the only way to sort of pass the time in any kind of pleasant fashion would have been to be completely blind drunk out of your mind, no? Because other than that, there's no reason to even go outside. It's the kind of weather like they have in Atlantic City in the wintertime where, you're thinking, as you look into, the ocean there from the pier, you're thinking, hey, I may as well just jump in because it's not worth it. It's the most depressing ocean in the history of the world. I would think maybe the Irish Sea is in that same category. So anyway, if college football picks up, Mario Cristobal, did we decide anything on this? Is he dumb enough to lose to the Florida Gators by, something that he does, some coaching atrocity that he implements and
I'm just curious what their offense. Look, that's the whole thing is his offenses are very mundane and old school. It would be dumb to do that with Cam Ward. Like Cam Ward, people are talking about, I don't think he's going to win a Heisman. I don't know where they're getting all that bullshit. But they're talking about him as one of the front runners for the Heisman. Their schedule's fucking soft. Like to have that guy come to you to then run the bullshit that ruined Tyler Van Dyke's career would make zero sense. So I'm curious. Like if he's smart, he has nothing to do with the offense because his offensive play calling sucks.
Yeah.
Like to me, be the recruiter guy, be the head of the team, and let someone else call the fucking plays. I'm curious if that's what we see. Like even going back to last year, the play calling sucked, and they supposed to have this great offensive line. They have this running quarterback that can chuck the ball. Like, open it up. Like that's what I'm curious to see. You're playing a UF team that's not known for great defense. They were horrendous on defense last year, to the point where they got rid of the defensive staff. They may be better this year, but that's what I'm curious. I'm curious because all these people, like Dave Hyde, wrote this weak SR, and I love Dave Hyde, but to come after it was his second year after he had been to Rose Bowls and all the crap we heard from fans. Like, you were paying him a ton of money to win year one. It was year two, and they didn't do any better. Yeah, they made it to a bowl and got.
Are they not like a game under 500 since this guy came?
They got beat up versus a bad Rutgers team. Like, the Georgia Tech thing that you talk about is the pinnacle moment of stupidity.
It's unforgivable. There's no way that anybody should ever coach another game after that move.
My problem is you're going to have that moment to try and shut people like you up. You better be better after. They weren't. That was the beginning of the end for them. They weren't good after that. Like, but people still have this, we'll see this year. You'll see. I know. Like, we know what he is. They may win this year, but it's going to be like giving Chris Greer credit if the Dolphins win. If the Dolphins win, it's because they pull shit out of their ass. They have no depth. The moves he makes outside of the first round are fucking horrendous.
His end game strategies, notwithstanding the ultimate blunder of all time, but when you're watching his end game strategies, they're always, wrought with what you would have to say is just horror. He leaves his team so vulnerable to making those big mistakes, in spite of being a conservative coach. It's crazy. But
I'm curious if he's smart enough to realize because that's what the good coaches do. They either learn or they learn to get the fuck out of the way. Like Eddie O.
But he's been around a while, though. This is not his first rodeo.
It's not. That's what I'm saying. Eddie O was not a great coach, actually. So what he did was, for that 1 year, he surrounded himself with really good assistants and got the hell out of the way. And they had one of the greatest, because they weren't good early, but by the end of the year, that LSU team was as good as any college football team ever. And it wasn't Eddie O, because you saw right away after, when he lost some of the assistants, it went back to sucking and he was out of a job. Like, if Cristobal, because he hasn't learned anything. So I think he should just admit to himself, look, these are deficiencies I have. Maybe I can trust my coaches around me. I'm curious. Their offense will be the telltale sign to me. They have all the running backs and the offensive line strong, and they bring in this quarterback. Okay, if they're running it up the fucking gut and playing conservative as fuck, it'll tell me, okay, he's learned nothing. They're no different, because they have plenty of talent. Talent ain't the issue this year.
Well, it'll be interesting to see the opener in what's supposed to be the big turnaround season. Well, he's had time to get his system in place there, and he's got his recruiting, and of course the transfer portal seems to be pretty good at attracting players. I don't know. Is that Nevin Shapiro? Is he back in action?
They have money.
Who's providing this cash?
They're putting a lot of money in the NIL, but yeah. Everyone is like. So at some point, like, you have to be able to do something. The guy can recruit. He's good at recruiting. I'm curious if it continues and he shows a propensity to keep struggling. We'll see.
All right. Well, it'll be fun as we continue to build towards what should be a very entertaining weekend of college football activity. All right. A lot of fun being with you today. Thanks to Tom Herman. Really enjoyed talking to that gentleman. So that was a lot of fun for us. Tom Herman, the head coach at FAU, going against the Michigan State Spartans coming up Friday night. 14-point dogs. Special K is he keeps telling me, hey, watch out, they're going to be good. So we'll see. But it would be a team that you could easily embrace and root for, just based on the leadership they have there with Tom Herman, a terrific guy. All right, we will see you guys tomorrow. Tony Segreto goes old school from his digs in Vermont.
Yes.
Where he is not experiencing the blast furnace-like conditions that we have going here. And Union Kitchen for the Mike Mayo Show. Union Kitchen, Mike Mayo's Lunchbox. Today, always, and you've gone out of your way to go to this place, even without the privilege of being comped.
No, they just do a great job.
Speaks volumes for their credibility, yeah.
Yeah, big fan.
You're going there willing to pay? Think about that.
Yeah,
that's good.
Exactly.
All right, so we'll have that for you at 1 o'clock here on South Florida Live. Let's Eat South Florida Facebook page. With its 166,000. How many more people? Is that not the entire population of Broward County?
mean, it spans more. It's all of South Florida, and people around the nation are
It's
big with
amazing.
it because they travel in and out of South Florida. So it's cool.
Excellent, man. Excellent. Somebody else had one negative thing to say about a place, and the people erupted on them.
That's my favorite.
Yeah, like one cold taco or breakfast burrito, and the next thing you know, everybody is just spitting up all over this woman. It was a little insane. I mean, she loved everything but this, and concluded that she would never go back to this place
Yeah, I
again.
hate that. I hate when they do that. I hate when
It's
people.
like, well, then just don't go back there. Don't let us know. All right, we will see you later on today, and then again tomorrow with the next edition of the Defo Show. For Mike Lubie Lubitz, I'm Jeff DeForest. Thanks for tuning in. See you next time. As we leave, you know that
The time.
It's 9:01.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.